And now, a free press debate. Will the truth survive artificial intelligence?
Today, I'm going to be talking to you about a new technology.
Have I ever told you the story of the magical pistachio?
If you like what you're seeing, just wait till what's coming next.
This is what artificial intelligence is already capable of. Generating fake images and sounds that are nearly indistinguishable from real ones, including this voiceover. AI is not just a fun app or a cool game. It is the biggest technological revolution of our lifetime.
It's the most profound advance in technology ever.
On the one hand, we have more knowledge than anyone in human history.
AI is able to help you learn whatever you need to learn.
We're making breakthroughs that could cure cancer or solve climate change.
As this technology progresses, we will see diseases cured at an unprecedented rate.
On the other, our most widely used AI systems are already supercharging bias, censorship, and deception.
What have you found them lying about?
They make up references that don't exist.
So will AI help us to see the world more clearly, unlocking intelligence beyond our imagination? Or is it a weapon that will manipulate us, spread lies, and make us doubt our own reality?
Should we allow AI machines to flood the internet with propaganda and fake news?
There are some great dangers in the technology.
When AI hacks language, it means it could destroy our ability to conduct meaningful public conversations, thereby destroying democracy.
Aravind Srinivas.
A major achievement of AI would be to give everyone access to all of the world's answers.
Jaron Lanier.
I think we could confuse ourselves into extinction with our own code.
Fei-Fei Li.
You can welcome so many disciplines to cross-pollinate around the topic of AI, to explore other new ideas.
Nicholas Carr.
Rather than more communication breeding understanding, it breeds misunderstanding. Rather than it breeding trust, it breeds mistrust. And rather than bringing greater social harmony, it brings greater strife.
Will the truth survive artificial intelligence? And now, introducing the founder and editor of the Free Press, Bari Weiss.
Thank you so much. San Francisco, it is awesome to be here. I am thrilled to be here with Nellie's entire extended family and the 20 or so of you that actually purchased tickets to tonight's event. I always love coming to San Francisco, where the bars reliably close at 8 p.m., and you can rest assured that your dinner companions are going to pitch you on AI for dogs. I do love it here. I'm long San Francisco, I'm long California, and we have an incredible evening in store for you. First, give it up for Colin Quinn, who we're so grateful he made it here. Okay. Before we get started, I want to take a moment to thank an organization that I've been involved with since college, and that I'm proud is not just sponsoring tonight, but this entire debate series this year. And that is the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression. Tonight's debate would not have been possible without the generosity of our friends at FIRE. If you believe, like we do, that free speech should be defended for everyone, including those that you disagree with, some of whom I promise you will hear on stage tonight, then FIRE is an organization that should be on your radar. And if it's not, just think about it as the ACLU before the ACLU lost its mind. Okay. At the Free Press, we believe, obviously, in open dialogue and in the power of persuasion. And that is the objective of tonight's debate, to persuade you. So let's get started. The late biologist E.O. Wilson said that the real problem of humanity is the following. We have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology, and it's terrifically dangerous. He said that back in 2011, before there was such a thing as GPT or an LLM, or if it did exist, most of us civilians had not heard of those things. A little more than a decade later, artificial intelligence is already completely transforming our world. Practitioners and experts alike have compared AI to the advent of electricity and of fire itself. Godlike, in E.O. Wilson's words, doesn't seem that far off. Even sober experts predict that disease cures and radically expanded lifespans, real-time disaster prediction and response, feats of engineering that we can't even believe, the elimination of language barriers, and that's just going to be the beginning. It is awesome in the truest sense of that word. But it is also leading some to predict nothing less than a crisis in what it means to be human in an age of such brilliant machines. Some people, including some people creating this technology, predict our possible extinction as a species. But you don't even have to go quite that far to imagine the way that it's going to transform our relationship toward information and our ability to pursue the truth. For tens of thousands of years, since humans started walking upright, or at least around that time, we have found our way to truth and to wisdom and to information through disagreement and debate with one another. But in the age of AI, our source of wisdom could now be machines that we program ourselves, models that spit out the information we already have, reflecting our biases and our blind spots. What does it do to the human mind when we outsource our curiosity in that way? What does it do to truth when we no longer wrestle with it, only receive it passively? When disagreeable, complicated human beings are replaced with AI chatbots that just tell us what we want to hear, are we even human at all? It makes our current concerns about mis- and disinformation seem positively quaint. And our ability to detect whether something is real or AI generated is approaching zero. I guess I should be embarrassed, but I actually fell for that Pope, the late Pope in the Balenciaga puffer image. I sent it to Nellie and I was like, isn't this an incredible coat that the Pope is wearing? That is how, well, either how dumb I am or how far AI has become. And unlike social media, which is a technology that at least most of us can understand, this is one that seems incredibly complicated. So tonight, we're going to debate whether this revolutionary technology will enhance our understanding of the world and bring us closer to the truth, or just the opposite. Okay, so for those of you who have never been to a free press debate, I am going to ask you to do something unusual right now, which is to pull out your phone in a theater. In order to know who presented the better argument, in order to know which side tonight is going to change your mind over the course of the next hour, I need you to tell us where you sit before we even begin on the following proposition. Will the truth survive artificial intelligence? So, you're going to see up on that screen a number. It starts with 888. You can type it in. I'm going to move to the side so you can see it. And I want you to text the words vote 1 to that number. You then get to choose to vote A if you believe that yes, the truth will survive artificial intelligence, or text B to vote that no, it will not. Now, while you vote and while we tabulate those votes, let me take a minute to introduce 4 brilliant and really singular people debating tonight's proposition. Arguing that yes, the truth will survive AI is Aravind Srinivas. Aravind is the CEO of one of the most exciting companies in the world of AI. It's called Perplexity, which he founded in 2022 after working at OpenAI, Google, and DeepMind. Just this week, news broke that they were raising $500 million at a $14 billion valuation, so drinks are on him after the show. Please join me in welcoming Aravind Srinivas.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Joining Aravind to argue that yes is Dr. Fei-Fei Li. Fei-Fei is a professor of computer science at Stanford, the founding co-director of the Stanford Institute for Human-Centered AI, and the CEO and co-founder of World Labs, an AI company focused on spatial intelligence and generative AI. She immigrated from China to America at the age of 16 and taught herself English while working at her parents' dry cleaning business and getting herself into Princeton. This is all captured in her truly remarkable book, The Worlds I See. Please give it up for Fei-Fei Li. And for the opposition, arguing that no, the truth will not survive AI is none other than Jaron Lanier. Jaron is a computer scientist, a best-selling author, and the founder of VPL Research, the first company to sell virtual reality products. He is also a composer and has over 1,000 instruments in his house, from a medieval cornetto, I've seen some of these, to a Japanese flute, all of which he can play. Also, the jewelry he's wearing tonight, he made it all himself. Please join me in welcoming Jaron Lanier. Last but not least, joining Jaron is Nicholas Carr. Nicholas is the author of many best-selling books on the human consequences of technology, including the Pulitzer Prize finalist The Shallows, The Glass Cage, and most recently, Superbloom. He also writes the wonderful Substack called New Cartographies. Nick is the only non-Californian on the stage tonight. He flew in from rural Massachusetts, so please give him a warm welcome. Thank you so much. Okay, now I'm going to explain the rules to you who are new. Each debater is going to get a 5-minute opening statement explaining their position on the motion. We'll start with Aravind, then we'll go to Nick, then Fei-Fei, then Jaron. Then we're going to get into it. Hopefully they'll draw some blood, maybe not too much, but we're going to get into it. And then we'll do a second sort of closing round, 2-minute closing statements. And then we're going to take another vote at the end of the night. And this is crucial. The way that we decide who wins tonight's debate is the team that changes more of your minds. It's the team that moves more of the audience. That will be named the winner of tonight's debate. Okay, let's take a look at the initial polling results. Will the truth survive artificial intelligence? Perhaps we should not be surprised given that we're in San Francisco. 68% say yes, 32% say no. So that is where we stand at the beginning of tonight. Let's see who can persuade you the most. Is everybody ready? Come on! Yes! Be it resolved, the truth will survive artificial intelligence. And who's first? You. This one right over there.
All right. First, let me say thank you for having me here. I really like these debates because debates are often about topics, questions to which we don't really have clear answers. But I think this one actually might be a little easier, going by the polls. We're asking if AI will, on balance, increase truth or decrease the truth. Well, AI is a technology. Let's start with that. So what is technology? Technology is whatever we invent to solve problems. Okay, so what is the problem? The problem, if you take the other side in this debate, is that AI will create a scenario where it is impossible to discern the truth. That indeed would be a big problem. So let's ask, what is the truth? There is a lot of debate in AI about what makes us fundamentally human. What do we have that machines do not? I think something that's very human about us is our evergreen desire to be truth-seeking. At my company, we call the quality as curiosity. You can call it anything you want, but here is a simple thing to realize. If there's any time tonight when you wonder if what I said or what anyone else here on stage is saying is true, or if you disagree with something I said and you want to go and fact-check it further, that is what I'm talking about. That quality in you, that truth-seekingness quality in you is what I'm talking about. So you have to ask yourself first, who came first here? The newspapers or the people who want to know what really happened? Did Bari here start the free press because she is the only person in the world who yearns for a sense of truth? Or is it that she knows everybody else does? Again, the answer doesn't really matter. The fact that we're all here is proof that we are curious, we are truth-seeking, and we all seek answers. The newspaper or the debate here like tonight, these are all just instruments or mechanisms that we've invented a long time ago to help us get the truth, to help us get better answers. People here will argue tonight that AI makes it way easier to fake the truth, but that does not address the fact that the human desire is to constantly seek truth. So you go back to the fact that we would clearly have a problem, and all we do, all we've ever done before, whenever we're faced with problems, is search for answers to solve them. And that is technology. It comes from our curiosity to seek truth, to identify problems, and find the answers to them. A final thing I'll say before we get started is about the word curiosity, which I'm clearly using a lot. We talk about it like it's something for children often, but remember that every invention in human history, every stage of progress, every innovation came from someone who was curious. Curious people changed the world. The Industrial Revolution did not begin with the industrialists, because industrialists did not even exist yet. It began with craftsmen, carpenters, engineers who were all really curious. And there were people who did not accept the conventional wisdom that something cannot be done. I say wisdom here, but with hundreds of years of hindsight, it very much looks like pessimism that you will hear from the other side tonight. In the same way, the transistor, which really was the first development leading to the information age that we all live in, was invented by engineers in a completely different industry for a telephone company. Their curiosity to replace vacuum tubes led us to the era of computing that we have today. So the only way for the opponents in this debate to be possibly right is if no one in this world was curious about how to solve for truth with AI. I am proof, and my company is proof, there's at least a few people in the world who have been curious about this already, and I think all of you here are curious too, because otherwise, what are we even doing here on Thursday night? So let's just have fun, and I'll wait for some questions. Thank you.
Next up is Nick.
Well, excuse me. I have to begin by clearing my throat. Now, I have to begin with a confession. I don't know what the truth is, but I'm pretty sure it's not something we can simply write down on a piece of paper with a pen, much less something we can receive on our phone screen or our laptop screen from a machine. It seems to me if the truth is anything, it's a social ideal. A personal ideal, yes. Many of us seek truth, and as Aravind said, that is a motivating factor in our life, but it's also a social truth. In a healthy society, the ideal of truth, the shared ideal of truth, is what joins people together in a common pursuit. People may have all sorts of different conceptions about what the truth is on any given matter, but as long as we all agree that the truth is worth aspiring, is worth our aspiration, then we remain committed to the same thing. And that means in a healthy society where truth is our kind of North Star, we're committed to listening to each other. We're committed to questioning our own beliefs, to questioning orthodoxies, and to be open-minded. It's these social characteristics, not any technological characteristics, that are the fundamental qualities of truth. So tonight, if we're really going to get down to the future of truth, I think we have to look at how the technology of AI is, like any other information technology, how it's going to influence society and how it's going to influence social norms, cultural norms, and how we all behave with each other. As we've all seen with the internet and with social media, you can make all sorts of early assumptions about how more free-flowing information is going to make us all smarter, it's going to make us all more understanding, we're going to be more broad-minded, we're going to get along better. But in many cases, and with these two technologies we see it, the actual impact of the technologies turns out to be very different and far, far more negative than we assumed, because you're dealing with the interaction of the technology in society. Now, we don't need to just talk theoretically about this, because we're getting an early read on how AI is going to influence the ideal of truth in the pursuit of truth from the experience of one of the most enthusiastic groups of early adopters of AI, and that's students. College students, high school students, middle school students. And their experience is particularly important because schools are the incubators of the ideal of truth. It's where we learn how to turn information into knowledge and hopefully get ourselves closer to truth. Well, most of the discussions about AI in schools have focused on cheating. But cheating isn't the problem. It's just a symptom of a deeper problem of how AI is distorting our schools in our educational system. The problem with AI isn't that it encourages cheating. The problem with AI is that it discourages learning. We learn by exercising our brain, by working hard to discover answers. And that means struggling with difficult texts. It means trying to synthesize what we've learned in our own mind and writing it out in a paper or in an exam. And if you look at both of those things, and there's plenty of testimony now from professors and teachers and students, if you look at both of those things, they're undermined by AI. You don't have to read, a student no longer has to read an assignment, a long book or a chapter or a journal article. They can simply get the AI summary. And what the AI summary what the AI summary does is it removes everything interesting, everything hard, everything difficult, everything subtle, everything nuanced that the author wanted to put in. So you get this illusion of thinking you know something without going through the hard work of actually learning it. And at the other end, I feel like I'm in school. And at the other end, you don't have to write your thoughts, synthesize your thoughts. You can get it out of the machine. So when we look at what's going on in the places that incubate knowledge in the love of truth, what we see is something very different from what people like Aravind are promising, and that is that by automating learning, you begin to lose learning. Thanks.
Fei-Fei, you get an extra like 25 seconds if you
Yeah. Oh boy, I so respectfully disagree with Nick, but I have to read my statement first.
You can just disagree with him off the bat.
And also, Bari did say that I started learning English at age of 16, so I missed this whole high school debate thing. So sorry, sorry, Aravind. I want to start by telling just two quick stories. It's 8:30 p.m., lights off, door closed. I snuggle with my second grader, just reading books and chatting about the day. And then out of blue, she asks, how many uniquely different Pokemons are there in the world? I was like, what? Or a slightly more civilized question, who runs faster, the ostrich or the grizzly bear? As a parent, what do you do at that moment? Okay, well, I'll tell you the answer later about these two questions. A second story. I have been taking care of my ailing parents for the past 30 plus years, and I'm the single child. If you have my experience, the singular thing you dread on a working day is getting a phone call. You don't know what's gonna happen. The parents might have a really bad test, medicines are running out, or something even more dreadful. For me, the singular thing I worry the most for my mom is if she falls. It turns out 1 in 4 seniors fall in the US, and that's 14 plus million of them. This results into 3 million ER visits, 1 million hospitalization, $80 billion of healthcare costs, and 38,000 deaths per year. And this is on par with the entire number of car accidents, of fatal car accidents per year. And what do you do with that? In the first case, when the second grader asks you the number of Pokemons, I frantically take out my phone, whether it's search or chatbot, I get the answer there. In the second case, I work really hard with my students and researchers at Stanford to create and innovate this research called ambient intelligence, to use smart sensors to keep seniors safe at home, to ensure their independent living, and to use smart sensors as a pair of extra eyes and ears to help them. So what's the moral of these two stories? Technologies like AI can become great helpers to us, from education to healthcare. And since the dawn of human civilization, we have been creating technologies. It's meant for improving our lives. Fire, books, steam engine, electricity, cars, modern medicine, you name it. Yes, they also have negative consequences, no matter how well intended. Fires burn, cars have fatal crashes, books, printed books can spread lies, and even medicine meant for saving lives have side effects and can be fatal in the hands of bad actors. And the introduction of every powerful yet new technology have been met with public anxiety and concerns. Can you believe in the 1880s, headlines like "Death by Wire" or "Electric wires kill again" were abundant? Or in the early 90s, urban congestion had been a prevalent headline about cars. Heck, even seat belts were viewed as an infringement of freedom by some. Yet it's undeniable that technologies have contributed vastly to the modernization of our species. Human life expectancy has improved from 30-year-old average life expectancy 2,000 years ago to 70+ years old today. Global literacy rate went from 20% 100 years ago to 85% in 2025. And global GDP post-World War II was about $5 trillion, and last year it was $105 trillion. So today, I'm not here to argue AI is good or bad in a simple black and white matter. I'm not here to argue AI will end the truth. Human society is far more complex to be viewed in such a simplistic manner. I want to advocate for a new framework of thinking about AI. It's a framework where humans own our agency, dignity, and responsibility, to ensure that AI is here to augment our capabilities to live and work better. He owes me several seconds. And to ensure our ways to improve ourselves individually and collectively. So in this human-centered framework, AI is not a foe, but a friend if we choose to make it a friend. It doesn't replace us, it augments us. It doesn't seek or not seek truth. People do, using AI. And let me just end with this. There is no independent machine values. Machine values are human values. So what AI does to truth is up to us, not AI.
Thank you.
Hello, hello. Okay. There are a few questions that I think don't lead us in a helpful way. One of them is a new technology good or bad? Because it's all in the details. Some technologies work out badly. Thalidomide, lead paint, I don't know, there are these things that we think are good, they turn out to be bad. So it's not that technology is always good. I think AI, I hate the term AI. It's really just a form of human collaboration. I hate the notion that we're creating a spirit inside a machine. But it helps me personally find the truth better. I love using it to collate the scientific literature when different people use different terms. That might not sound like the most glorious thing, but for me it's a gigantic improvement in life. But the thing is, what works for us personally, what we imagine in our own lives, might turn out very differently on a larger social scale. Unfortunately, that's called complexity. It's a thing we study. So I want to give you two complicating factors for what happens when we scale up AI. One of them has to do with the culture of AI, and the other has to do with the business model of Silicon Valley. And between the two, we're kind of screwing ourselves. But we don't have to. We can change it. I don't think AI is the problem. It's our culture and it's our business model. Okay, what's wrong with the culture? Our founding father, Alan Turing, was being tortured for his identity because it was illegal to be gay, and he came up with this idea about identity that it's all in the eye of the beholder. So if a computer could fool you, you might as well think it's magical or conscious or whatever. Now, the problem with the Turing test, which is our founding myth, is that it doesn't actually do anything for anybody. If a computer can fool you, all it's achieved is theatrics. In itself, there's no productivity, there's no problem solved. It could be part of solving a problem in some special circumstances, but in general, it's just fooling you. And unfortunately, the vast majority of our framing of our technology now is theatrical rather than practical helpfulness. So we spend all our time, and Bari was very kind to not mentioning my particular industrial affiliation, but I'm a top scientist for one of the big companies in tech now. I guess I won't name them because they're probably horrified by me being out here saying these things. I'm not really sure. But anyway, you can look it up and you might or might not get the truth online. But the thing is, we spend all our time concerned about whether we can fool people. Is this voice distinguishable from a real human voice? Could this image have come from a camera, or is it a generative AI model? It's really stupid. Like, why should we put money and time into trying to fool people? People are easy to fool. Think about your love life history, okay? You're an idiot. You're foolable. I say that with guaranteed authenticity about every single one of you, because that's how humans are. So us treating being able to fool each other as like some scientific achievement is really in itself stupid. We're fooling ourselves. We're auto-passing the Turing test. All right, so then that's the problem with our culture, and we really ought to quit it. We ought to really, as you were saying, solve problems. Like, if there's a specific thing, like some company has a supply chain crisis, can AI fix their supply chain? Oh, that's a real problem. Let's do that. I don't want to fool that person. All right, second problem is the business model. We ended up, this is a long story, I've written about this a lot, but basically Silicon Valley's principal business model is to get paid by third parties to influence or fool essentially the users. So the users get stuff free. Now, I like the fact that AI has started on a subscription model, so it doesn't rely on third parties paying to influence you. But oh, come on, you know that's not going to last. And so the problem is, as long as we're selling influence, as long as we're in an attention economy where manipulating attention is the product, AI will be corrupted. So even if you as an individual can use AI for the truth, and I certainly do, that's feasible. On the large scale, between our stupid cultural idiocy, our confusion, and our misplaced business model, those two things mean that in the aggregate, there's going to be a lot of bad information and fooling going on. I hate it. I wish it were different. We got to change these things. We got to fix it. We can fix it. But if we pretend the problems aren't there, we won't fix it. So it's not that I think the truth is going to die. It's just that unless we fear it might die, we won't save it. Okay, thanks.
Jaron, get the mic. Okay. Whoever curated this group of four is very, very special. Thank you, Isaac Grafstein, for doing that. I want to go back to where you began, Aravind, which is I agree with you, and I think everyone on this stage and in this room would agree with you that part of what makes us human is curiosity, is knowledge seeking, is wanting to sort of push into the future. And you analogize the advent of this technology to newspapers and debates. And I want to kind of push back on that, and I'm curious what you guys all think, because the thing that makes a debate, and maybe you'll enlighten me about what makes this technology different, but the thing that makes a debate, in my view, a very effective way of getting to the truth is there is a clash. There's a clash involved where you guys are going to disagree with you guys, and hopefully the audience at the end of tonight will come out smarter for it. Isn't that mechanism of the clash missing in a lot of the tools that many of us are now using?
Well, it all depends on how you use it. Specifically for preparing for this debate, I did ask the AI to go look at their writings and go pull up all the stuff I've already said in my public interviews and talks and challenge my own perspectives in the context of their writings and help me prepare for this debate. And still come up with winning arguments for my position. By the way, I'm not kidding.
Are you an AI right now?
That's the thing. AI is a superpower. Like, you got to channelize it, right? I think that's...
So what was the strongest argument on their side?
Well, I did know that they, by the way, I'm not kidding here. The AI did tell me that they would bring up this aspect of humans getting lazier, which is the cheating argument that he brought out among students, which I disagree with. You got to fundamentally change the nature of assignments. That is the real solution. And I did know that he would bring up a skepticism of Silicon Valley and business models and things like that, which he did. So,
and what do you have to say to that?
Well, that's the thing. The whole fact is we got to be happy that a completely new business model is emerging. Since when did people actually want to pay for a search product? When we started 2.5 years ago, everybody made fun of me saying, this is search in macroseconds. Who's ever going to pay for this? Google will make everything free. Now, we make hundreds of millions in revenue from just paid subscriptions. So there is clear evidence that people are willing to pay for truth, as long as it's provided in the most accurate way possible at scale. And I have no doubts that we can scale this at least an order of magnitude higher, hopefully 2 orders of magnitude higher. And that's a business that's at the scale of Google's advertising business, right? So you got to believe in the future. You cannot just assume things won't work out. And hence why I took the optimistic position here. And so, yeah, I'm actually not of the opinion that products like Perplexity or ChatGPT or any of these things cannot be used to do debates. In fact, I actually think they're great. And I would really appreciate doing that because this is actually my first ever proper debate. So I have no position to be even sitting here and debating people like you. But with the help of AI, I can,
Nicholas, I want you to respond to, I think one of the strongest arguments this side made, and Fei-Fei made it, is if you look back at the skeptics of all of this new technology, whether it's probably the wheel all the way now to AI, the skeptics, the Luddites of those moments, look sort of foolish in retrospect, because who could imagine life without electricity and the tripping over wires? I would love for you to respond to that. What makes, and I know it's not just AI in your work, digital technology, what makes this substantially different in your view?
Because we've never had this little device in which is compressed information of all sorts, news of all sorts, our social lives, photographs, radio, TV, everything that's going to grab our attention, and that's been very carefully engineered to grab our attention, that we carry around on our person all day. That is completely new in human history. And because we are seekers, not necessarily truth seekers, by the way, we're seekers of information. And that is one of our strongest instincts. We will go to that phone all the time. And what that ends up doing is keeping us in a perpetual state of distraction. That's been engineered by the companies that control the technology. And I have to say, I think if you don't think
that some of that same dynamic, as Jaron said, embedded in the business model is not going to play out with AI, you're kidding yourself. I mean, I talked about how the growing evidence that students are using the technology, not to cheat, although they're doing that, but in a way that undermines learning. Well, you'd think if we can take for granted the responsibilities of the companies who own and control the technology, they might look at that evidence and say, well, let's look at our systems. Let's think carefully about how we're feeding this to students. Well, what did OpenAI do at the beginning of the school year? Did it do that? No. It said, let's offer a big student discount for our premium service. In fact, let's make it free for the first 2 months of the school year. This is the dynamic that is guiding the way people are going to use the technology. Is it going to be used in particular disciplines for good purposes? Of course. But when we're talking about the truth, we have to get down to reality of how people in general are going to interact and use the technology.
Okay, Fei-Fei, I want you to jump in because you said there was a ton he said that you disagree with. And for the first time debaters, you can interrupt. You don't need to wait for them to be finished.
Sure.
Yeah, please.
Okay, I do want to disagree respectfully, Nick. Two things. I keep hearing that you say it's the companies, their business models, their subscription models. Who made those companies? AI or people?
People.
Okay, so the problem is not AI. The problem is people. I want to point that out. So I'm not defending those companies or not defending. I just want to logically make it clear that one of the issues here we have of business models is people, not AI. Secondly, I really want to talk about this premise of AI undermining learning. I have been an educator for all my entire career. As an educator, whether you're a K-12 or higher education, you know one of the most important ingredients of learning has nothing to do with tools. It has one magic word, and that one magic word is motivation. It's the agency of the learner. Whether you have tools, whether the tools is a rock, a piece of paper, a calculator, or a ChatGPT, it's irrelevant. It's the agency, it's the willingness to learn, or the lack of willingness to learn, of the learner that decides on the quality and the result of learning. So it's not about AI or calculator or rulers that undermines learning. It's about what do we do? How do we ensure, no matter which age we are in, whether it's Stone Age or digital age, how do we encourage students to have that agency to want to learn and use the tool in the most effective and responsible way? And I think that is the problem we should be looking at. And AI is just there as a tool.
You guys want to respond to that? Jaron?
Of course it's the people and not the technology, absolutely. And yet here we are with particular people and particular technology and unfolding situation, which is very concerning. So I agree, and yet then the question that begs the question, okay, what do we do? Like what? And so the urgency is to accept that there is a real problem. I've been around for a bit, and originally social media was supposed to have a very different effect on people's individual psychology and on society as a whole than it ended up having. My opinion is that social media, in a minority of cases, but a substantial one, does good for people, and in a majority of cases does bad for people. That's backed up by most research and most observers, I would say. That's not what was supposed to happen, and it's not the fault of the packet switch internet. It's not the fault of the stack. It's not the fault of Apache. It's not the fault of, any. It's the business model, the culture, the unfolding way it all happened was screwed up. And so that is where the problem lies. We have to name it. We have to be very clear about it. We have to be very strong-voiced about it. And we have to insist that it not happen again with AI, because AI could be like that, but like 1,000 times worse, right? And so
you ended your opening statement by sort of ominously saying it could get better, but we have to basically scare the shit out of people to fix it.
No. It's not that we have to scare the shit out of people. What we have to do is articulate very well alternative paths that are better for everybody, that are win-win. And so one example is that right now, because we have such a focus on fooling people and creating this impression that there's a magic man, the Wizard of Oz, is there in your machine, we have a way of wanting to erase the original people whose data the system trained on. And so we say, well, we can't find them because we turned that data into synthetic data and it's lost. But actually, if we put in the work, we could trace everything an AI does while it's doing it back to the original people. They deserve credit, they deserve glory. They sometimes deserve money because we might want to motivate them to make new kinds of data. They deserve to have participation in a new economy. Like, we should be making new classes of creative people making new kinds of data instead of new classes of dependent people. The dependent society where everybody's on universal basic income will be a deeply corrupt and horrible society that people won't accept. And so the only alternative to it is to not pretend people don't exist. And the only way to do that is to trace back to them and treat their data as kind of a sacred aspect of their humanity and remember who they are. So could we do that? Yes. Would it make a more sustainable economy where our own customers would be able to afford our product in the future? Yeah, I don't think there's any other way. So that's one example. That's what we call data dignity. That's that philosophy. So the point is to articulate alternatives. I have to say, when you talk to young people now and they see all this talk about everybody will be on universal basic income,
does anyone believe that anymore? I feel like that was a big Andrew Yang thing in 2016.
Yeah, well, see, that's the thing is they don't.
Woo, I loved him.
There's this,
but it doesn't work.
There's this dismal feeling that we're headed into this brick wall where nothing makes sense, and there's also.
I think the sense with AI though is that Tyler Cowen, along with Avital Balwit, wrote a really excellent piece earlier this week in the Free Press. And they basically said, listen, we're either heavy users of AI, that's Tyler, or helping usher it in, that's Avital at Anthropic. And both of us believe this is going to usher in an age of human flourishing, but also is going to create an identity crisis about what it means to be a human being at all. And I guess I'm curious what you guys make of that.
No, that's great. The identity crisis is a real thing, but the problem is that you have to approach society holistically. You have to think about the spiritual level, the psychological level, the economic level, the political level, the systemic level. All of it has to line up at least a little. If it lines up too perfectly, you're screwing yourself up and it'll turn into something terrible. But as long as there's kind of some rough thing. So yeah, of course, we worry about human identity, but you can't have human identity if you're considered to be economically worthless.
Well, let me finish. So one of the ways that they talked about the crisis in identity is not just the fact that we will no longer be the smartest entities in the room, and we need to discuss what smart actually means, but that a very small number of highly agentic people, the kind of motivated learners that you're referring to, Fei-Fei, will sort of control everything in their optimistic view. And I hope I'm not making too much of a caricature of this, and a lot of other people, at least in the short term, are going to feel more like cogs in a machine. Do you believe that that is going to happen in the short term, that it's going to create a division between a few sort of masters of the universe that are able to, with the help of this new technology, sort of be almost Rockefeller-like, Elon Musk-like, and everyone else will be far less agentic, dependent on UBI, something like that? Is that what you guys imagine in the short-term future?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Too polite, yes.
Yeah, look, my position in my opening note was universal trait of humans that has stood the test of time is curiosity. Yes, some people can channelize their curiosity with higher agency than others. They have a higher innate drive, motivation, so they get things done faster. But I feel like AI is actually going to be a pretty equalizing force here. Earlier, if you had more drive, you could get more work done. But now AI actually gets a lot of work done for people. In fact, the people who get more work done now are those who can learn how to use these tools and there's literally no limit to what all ways they can use them. So there is no reason to believe that those who have the highest drive or the future Elon Musk are going to be the highest beneficiaries of AI. Those who actually, I would say AI is going to make people shine that otherwise would not have shown in a normal world, because they can channelize their curiosity in even more effective ways than ever before. And I like seeing this analogy as the telescope for the mind. With the telescope we could see far away, and with all these deep research agents, you can go and ask whatever questions you want. You can go and ask it to do an entire research on a topic that you have literally no clue about. You can be anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in Stanford or Harvard. It doesn't matter. And you get pretty much the same answer. Yes, they're behind paywalls, but everything's getting cheaper. Whatever is behind a paywall today is a free product 6 months from now. That's the speed at which things are moving. So that level of democratization of knowledge is going to make so many people shine. And the only limit is how we all channelize our curiosity. In fact, I don't think we need to work that hard. AI is going to make it so much easier to get work done that it's not going to be this person who comes and spends 12 hours a day working who's going to be the guaranteed winner. In fact, it's going to be the one who has more original thought process. And I feel like AI is going to help them shine even more. And because you remove all the drudgery, so what else do? You just think clearly, you just reflect on what the AI says, go back and forth, and make awesome things happen.
Can I push back a little on this idea of the democratization of information and knowledge, making people shine? This is something we've heard throughout the era of the internet. We're going to make all this information accessible to everyone, and we're going to have this explosion of creativity. And we heard it again with social media. We're going to have this explosion of communication and exchange of messages. We're going to understand each other better. And it hasn't worked out. And I think we have to look at why it hasn't worked out. And one of the reasons is because it's not just a matter of, oh, there are tools over here and there are human beings over here, and we just have to use the tools properly. Human beings and tools interact in a way that change both of them. And when you look at the fundamental way that digital technologies, and I include AI here, interact with human beings and human nature, you see a fundamental conflict. It's not making information incredibly available and speeding up its flow and speeding up the volume that gives people knowledge. In fact, it destroys in many cases, their ability to create knowledge, because it's not just a matter of gathering information. You have to think carefully and clearly and with a great deal of attention about that information. We've created a system that does not give people the ability or the time to do that because they're juggling information all the time. They're overwhelmed.
Well,
I don't think we can take this naive view after all we've seen that, oh, we're going to democratize knowledge and everything's going to be great. There's a conflict between the technology and human beings that we have to recognize.
Go ahead. So I just want to counter Nick that I actually share your concern that we can use technology in the wrong way. But this doomsday scenario you kept saying that as we digitize our technology, as we invent more tools, it undermines knowledge and all that. But as I said, if you compare literacy, if you compare global economy to 50 years ago, 75 years ago, we have by and large increasing literacy.
If you compare it to 25 years ago, you see a different picture, because that's when the internet arrived. You see actually people's knowledge of the world, their general knowledge, has not gone up when we've made all information democratized. People's knowledge of the world, their general knowledge, has gone down. Why is that?
I don't have the source. I want to ask AI to help, but but last I checked,
there you go. That is the example that knowledge can actually go up. You have a question now.
Yep.
You both disagree. AI is the only way to help you.
Oh, the magic box.
The one thing I do want to say is that there is a possibility that in short term that jobs will be disrupted. I'm not saying will be taken away in a black and white way, but all these LLMs are disrupting white-collar jobs, software engineering jobs in a way that we didn't expect. So we do have to respect that fact. It brings out a lot of good, like Aravind said, but it also might create disruption that as a society we have to absorb. We have to think about reskilling. Some people have more agency to reskill or upskill themselves. Some people have less as a society. How do we respond to that? So a lot of the issues we are concerned about, first of all, I really do think both sides share these kind of concern. Second of all, I think it really, to me, is a problem of education, is how we update our education, how we do proper public education. I am far more concerned about the lack of proper public education in the age of AI than AI itself. And I think we really have to focus on the source of the issue. Every time we focus on the source of the issue, we go back to people, not AI.
Okay, one of the things that I would argue, and I suspect some in this room agree, that we learned during COVID was that these systems, whether it's search or Twitter or any other social media platform, were made and filtered and censored to some extent by human beings. And I think one of the big fears that a lot of people have about this new technology, and Mark Andreessen put it this way to me, that it will be 1,000,000 times more dangerous because it will be sort of a control layer over everything, and the potential for sort of censorship and the political control of AI will be profound. And I think that that directly relates to the proposition tonight. So I wanted you to give your side a chance to respond to that. If one of the big lessons of, let's just say, the COVID era was that human beings that control places like Twitter or Facebook or whatever suppressed extremely important dissident perspectives that now we know were probably more on the side of right than wrong. How are we going to avoid that with AI? How is it not going to become 1,000,000 times more dangerous?
Well, the honest, like the real solution, long-term solution that will work is open source because it increases trust. If something is actually this powerful, you want as many eyeballs on them. You don't like there's always going to be some level of skepticism if there's like some group of selected individuals, some government, which every 4 years might change, and then they decide like what AI should do and shouldn't do for everybody. That is not sustainable. And in general, how we build technologies that we all live with today and benefit from and use, like the internet, mobile phones, has been through open source standards and software. And the same thing should apply for AI. And one of the reasons why DeepSeek was so awesome, at the same time criticized, was because it was censored. It was a model built by a company in China. Obviously, it was fine-tuned to say certain things that were not true, right? And what people need to do is be aware of that and try to build models where the winning solution, the winning strategy is trust and transparency. That's what's going to work. And hopefully, like if you build AIs with those values and like have as many people take a look at your entire like trace of like where the models were trained, what kind of tokens were used, and people can actually play with it and like make sure that it's telling the right things. That is the only way to truly like make sure things at this scale work.
Can I?
Oh, go ahead, Fei-Fei, please.
I actually don't think open source is the only way. I think open source is a very big part of the ecosystem. Not only open source, but also good public sector research that tends to be open source and open access. I also think that capitalism itself and free market is a very, very important part of this. Just use your own example, Bari, about information censoring. Well, you left New York Times, you started Free Press. So given this society and an economy, there are people will become the counterbalance. You're thriving, and people come to you. So you're an embodiment of, in a capitalistic free market society, we will have different voices. You'll be using different AI tools to counter the other AI tools. So I have a lot of hope.
But what do you make of Jaron's argument from earlier that the business model itself, which is trying to, well, Nicholas would say stealing our attention, Jaron emphasized third parties. What do you make of that?
It is concerning. This is why I have always argued for responsible use. I have always argued for proper policy making and regulatory measures on technology. And I also do believe that open source will play a huge role in those, in the face of those issues.
One of the things you guys have talked about, I just
want to address a couple things before we lose them. The first issue with open source and AI is that the source you can open is pretty unintelligible even to experts, but to the degree it's intelligible, it's only to experts. So we like poring over each other's models. There are very few people who are qualified to, and so I think there's a way in which the open source thing keeps it in the club, and it doesn't really democratize in the way it did for like small code. Furthermore, as we've seen in the famous paper from Anthropic in the last month, sometimes what we think is going on in the models is not what's going on, and the truth is we don't know how to really interpret our models yet. And I want to say I totally support the idea of public sector AI models. As you know, I've been trying to support Stanford's effort, which is great.
Thank you.
You're about to make a major announcement, and I love it. And yet...
Do you want to make some news?
What is my major announcement?
I'm just teasing them for you. All right.
Do you want to make news?
No. Stanford is, not you. Okay, but Stanford's going to make an announcement on Tuesday or something. I don't know. But anyway, look, the thing is, they're making an open model.
Is it fake news or?
It's Percy's thing. But yeah, okay. So anyway, the thing is, I'm sorry. I'm just talking among us. I don't really care if this is public. All right. So the thing is, the nature of digital networks is that they have very low friction, and low friction enhances the network effect so profoundly that you get these super monopolies very rapidly. So you tend to have super monopolies around frontier AI models, around social media, where there's a small number that grab a bunch of stuff, and then you have a small number of people who own those. So the problem is that concentrates so much money and power that mechanism of enhanced network effects undermines democracy. And makes some of the people who own the hubs kind of crazy without mentioning anybody in particular. And see, they laugh because they know. And so we have to come up with a business model for big digital things, whether it's AI or anything else, that doesn't concentrate so intensely, because that undermines everything. And the other thing I want to say is that every AI company is saying, we're creating this new intelligence, it'll be this new species, it'll be super intelligent, blah, blah. But they're not saying, oh, we're going to release it, we're taking no ownership on it, we're not going to profit from it because that would be unethical. No, they're going to own it. So they're making a super slave, not a super entity. And there's something, like the way we're thinking about this is so concentrative that it undermines the democratizing effect that should be intrinsic to the technology. That's what happened with social media, which should have been more democratizing instead of, more of a crazy-making medium.
By the way, I have no problem that you argue against social media.
But the problem with social media isn't the social media itself. Like the idea of people connecting online and listening, like that in itself isn't the problem. It's the algorithms that guided people into a paranoid state of being in order to get their attention. That's the problem. And so the issue with AI is not the AI. It's not the large language model. It's the concentration of power and wealth around who owns the model, and it's the business model of the model. Yep. So I don't know how many times I have to say it. I love the algorithms. I use them. I work on them. I want to improve them. It's a total misdirection to say it's a bad algorithm. You have to look at the big system, including the people, the money, the business of society, the psychology, the myth-making, the politics. You have to look at the whole system to understand it. You can't isolate just this one little thing, which is the code. And no matter how open source you make it, you don't address the whole system.
Okay, I want to ask one more question, then we're going to go to closing statements. So I was preparing for tonight, and someone sent me a great line from the book of Job. And the question, it's perfect, actually, because Job asks, like, where is wisdom found? And basically the answer comes back that it's outside of the material world. It's outside of information. It lies in our humility before God. And here we have a thing where people believe they're making something godlike, and they talk about it as if it's the smartest thing in the room, without really defining what smartness is. And Nicholas, I wondered if you want to talk just for 30 seconds, and then we'll go to closing statements, about like the wisdom, where wisdom goes in an era where we're all being taught to learn to, not just to learn to code, that was 5 years ago, but learn to prompt and to become obsessed with getting the answer. Wisdom is different than just information seeking. Where is that going?
I mean, wisdom comes with grappling with many different sources that are often in conflict with each other, and that you have to synthesize them in your own mind. If you're using a prompt to get a summary, and Jaron and I talked about this a while ago, you're getting a consensus view. You're getting all of that tension out of which you would synthesize, if you really grappled with it yourself, you would synthesize for yourself a kind of what we call knowledge and then what we call wisdom. If you're just relying on this consensus view that smashes all these things together, and as I said earlier, kind of gets rid of all the interesting stuff, then actually the technology can give you answers, but it prevents you from going through the hard work of actually turning that into knowledge and then wisdom.
Can I disagree on this?
I'm going to let you disagree in your closing statement, because I'm sensitive to time, and I think it's a union hall. Jaron Lanier, 2 minutes on the clock.
2 minutes?
Yeah, maybe even 90 seconds for each, because I want to be sensitive, but save your thought, please.
Okay.
All right, 2 minutes. The myth of AI is that there's not a real difference between a person and a computer, or if there is, we don't really talk about it. The computer's coming alive, it's another entity, maybe superior to us, maybe a peer, whatever. Now, here's what I want to assert. Fundamentally, we can't know. Fundamentally, we live by faith more than we want to admit. We live by faith that that other person over there is conscious on the inside or has internal experience or whatever word you want. You can talk about a soul if you want. That's a matter of faith in each other. In olden times, we worried about faith in God. Right now, we really have to think about faith in each other, which used to be taken for granted. Now, that faith is very precious. Who do you extend that faith to? What's in your circle of empathy? Does it include immigrants? Does it include animals? Does it include fetuses? We disagree about these things. But I think as a pragmatic question, since we cannot know, since fundamentally it's an unknown whether AI is a new kind of collaboration and only the people are real, or whether it's a new real thing in itself, we cannot know which point of view is correct. Pragmatically, we have to sprinkle our very precious magic dust on each other. We have to treat people as magical, holy, special, whatever term you like, in order to have a society that serves people. Otherwise, we will not serve people. Otherwise, we will gradually lose track. So it's a weird thing, but I think we have to have almost a religious faith at the core of our technology in order to be rational. Otherwise, we go crazy with our own fantasies and lose our integrity and rationality as technologists. You can't have technology without a beneficiary for the technology, and the only beneficiary for technology should be people, not technology itself.
Okay, first of all, I forgot to tell you, ostrich runs a little faster than grizzly bears. and AI tells me there are 1,025 different Pokemons. So I do want to start by respectfully disagreeing with Nick that I want to defend prompt. Einstein has said the biggest thing in science is not getting the answer, but asking the right question. prompting is asking the right question. It's up to humans to prompt in the right way and to gather and critically analyze the information you gather, whether it's from search or chatbot or a dictionary. So prompting is asking questions, and we want to ask questions. And I want to finish by just telling one last story. That about 8 years ago, I was the director of Stanford AI Lab. It was really a couple of years after the first wave of deep learning revolution, what people now call the birth of modern AI. So I invited a major Silicon Valley technology industry leader, a household name I will not share, but you can guess, to meet with our students at a weekly event we call AI Salon. And he spent the entire hour talking about the dooms of AI and all the possible, terrible things. And then after that, we walked off stage. And he asked me, he grabbed me, he said, Fei-Fei, are you not worried about AI doomsday? And I looked at him and said, it's not AI that make me despair or hopeful. It's people. I'm an educator, and even more importantly, I'm a mother, so I must believe in people. And he could not answer me, because that is being a mom and being an educator and placing hope in people is the ultimate thing for humans. So I want to just end for paraphrasing Dr. Martin Luther King. The arc of history is long, but it bends towards benevolence. And that's why my hope is in people, not AI.
So we've been talking a lot about technologists and programmers and scientists and billionaires tonight, and those are all important. But we haven't talked about one group of people that's absolutely essential to the pursuit of truth and the realization of truth, and that's artists. I would argue you're going to have a better chance discovering truth through art than you are through pretty much anything else. And we also need to think about what AI, as this incredibly powerful tool for generating mediocre art, is going to do to the careers of artists, particularly young artists, writers, directors, photographers, painters, everybody involved in the creative trade. And I think because it is so good and so cheap at generating images and words in patterns that are good enough, and that for many people will do the job, it's going to make it much, much harder, I think, in the years ahead for artists to make a living. And we have to think also about how that is going to influence what we call the truth. Because if you begin to remove the ability of artists to make a living, because they're in competition with this machine-generated stuff, you're going to, I think, ultimately erode, if not completely destroy, one of the most important roots, R-O-U-T-E-S, to the truth that is available to us. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. So look, it's quite simple at the end. The other side of the stage has obviously painted a bleak view of a dystopian future. It's easy to be afraid of anything. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if the world turns upside down? It's super easy, actually, to fearmonger about a lot of catastrophic scenarios. Fear sells easily. Hollywood is an example. So it's very important to be realistic. So think about it this way. For their proposition to be correct, we might as well give up now, right? Like, that does not sound to me like any part of human history. Every day, people have been waking up and working on the world that they want to live in. From tending your own garden or to inventing commercial flights, building AI, it's what we do. We channelize our curiosity to create the world that we want to live in. So you're curious, I'm curious, we're all curious. So do you really want to live in the world that they've described? No. I don't even think they want to live in the world they've described. So the only question you have to ask yourself to vote is not whether you think AI is net good or net bad. It's just whether or not you think there'll be enough people who ask good questions, try to solve problems, and build solutions for them. And if you ask yourself that, it fundamentally boils down to faith in humanity, and that's where lies your answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, please give it up for Aravind, Srinivas, Fei-Fei Li, Nicholas Carr, and Jaron Lanier. Okay. It's time, once again, to pull out your phones, because now we're going to see who won the debate. Yes, the number is up on the screen. And this time you're going to text the words vote 2 to that number. And you're going to go A for yes, the truth will survive artificial intelligence. In other words, you agree with Aravind and Fei-Fei. Or B for no, the truth will not survive AI, if you are with Jaron and Nicholas. Okay, in the meantime, I have a few people that I have to thank. Tonight would not have been possible without the people I am about to name. At the Free Press, my colleagues Isaac Grafstein, Ellie Stein, and Joey Grimmer for producing tonight's event. Also from the Free Press, Marissa Harari, Sean Fisher, Sasha Seinfeld, Yana Kozlowski, Aaron Otwell, Clara Grusk, and all of the rest of the growing Free Press team. Thank you so much. I also want to extend an enormous thank you to Fire for their incredible partnership and their generous support of this series. That's Greg Lukianoff, Alicia Glennon, Nico Perino, Malvi Shah, Ashley Adams, and Bridget Glock. And I want to give them a chance to just stand up. They're going to be hanging out. Turn up the house lights a little bit. Fire people, stand up. They're going to be standing right outside at the end of the night. Look for the man with the sort of Amish beard. He's tall, he's friendly. He'll maybe buy you a cocktail later, and find out more about Fire, the new old ACLU. It's better in every way, trust me. We are also joined tonight by a very special additional sponsor, and that is the Cosmos Institute. It's an incredible name, whose mission is to promote human flourishing in the age of AI. If you're building something in that world, you're going to want to check them out, and you can do that by scanning the QR code in your program to learn more. And I'm incredibly excited to make an announcement, not about Stanford and whoever Percy is. I guess we'll find out about that on Tuesday. But I am excited to announce that Fire and Cosmos are partnering together to launch a $1 million fund for open source AI projects that advance truth-seeking. So if that's you or someone you know, you can apply at cosmosgrants.org/truth. And if you didn't get that all down, it's fine. You're going to find the guy with the Amish beard, or you're going to read about it in Friday's Free Press, where we're going to also promote it. But thank you all so much. Okay, it is time to see who changed the most minds and who the winning team of tonight's debate is.
Whoa! Good job.
So it's the team who changed the most minds. Will the truth survive artificial intelligence? In front of this San Francisco crowd, the doomers, or the slight doomers, have won. Nicholas Carr and Jaron Lanier. Thank you all so much, and have a great night.